first time in the Kendall office, we're gonna interview our top producer, George Santana, and a special surprise, Marlene Gonzalez dropped in, so we have two agents that can help you guys get to where they are, which have been very successful in real estate over the last over 15 years. Okay, are you guys ready?
We're ready for the interview. Are you ready, George?
Yes, I'm ready.
We're gonna be doing a tag team here, okay?
Okay. How long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business between 14 and 15 years.
And Marlene?
I've been in the business 16 going on 17 years.
16, 17. I know, because you're the one that trained me. How do you organize your work day, George?
My work day, I organize to come in the office. I'm a person who comes to the office every day. Come in the office, check my emails. I print the things I gotta do that daily. Any open files that I have, follow up on closings, follow up with the mortgage broker, anything that needs inspections, appraisal. And then towards during the day, I start calling for appointments in the afternoon to set up appointment for the next day.
Okay.
Wow, in my case, when I was doing active sales, yeah, all the administrative stuff in the morning, check the emails, follow up with customers, phone calls, schedule appointments. I used to work out of my house, but I would religiously do that before I would leave the house, like around 10 o'clock in the morning. And then by the time I left the house, I already had a preset schedule. If I'm gonna visit with customers, if I'm gonna go to an inspection, a listing appointment, if I was gonna preview homes, and basically I would plan out my schedule 1 week at a time, and I would stick to that schedule every single day. And by the end of the class, George is gonna show you guys a typical schedule. And that's what you have to start doing. This is a business and you have to control your business. And as such, you have to be disciplined to do the same things every single day.
Quick question, for somebody that's new, not like you guys that have a load of work to do. If you're new, what would you say? Contact sphere of influence, hand out cards, call everybody you know, let them know you're doing real estate, etc. Until
Right.
you get your workload going.
Basically, what I would do if you're, getting into this first, is like if you were getting married. You write everything to the people you're gonna call and send business cards to, your appointments and your wedding, Con una boda, your invitation. So that's what people you start calling, to listen to. Listen yourself. Listen, I'm in the business. If you have a friend or family interested to buying or renting, you start from there, little by little.
Basically, let everybody out there know what you're doing. You're doing real estate now. You get your name out there. What is your specialty?
My specialty is residential, single family home. I do a little bit of commercial, but I'd rather stick one thing is residential. If you have a friend or family interested in commercial, you could share in the office with other colleagues with you.
Right. I did residential for 2 years, and then for over 12 years, I did commercial real estate. And I kind of prefer commercial real estate, but I've done, and now with residential, if someone calls me, I basically refer it out to another agent in the office that specializes in a given area.
Why do you prefer commercial?
Why do I prefer commercial? That's a good question. The reason being, my business did not take off until I started knocking on the doors of the people that used to be my customers in my prior career, okay? And those people, in my case, was logistics and transportation. So the moment I started contacting the exporters, the importers, the airlines, the steamship lines, the trucking companies, they knew me for 18 years, so they immediately said, oh, you're doing real estate, oh, you're doing commercial, oh, we need a warehouse, we need an office, we need this, and I said, bingo. And that's how I got started.
Commercial is a little bit more aggressive, I'll be honest with you. It's more cut, short throat, Instead of residential is more open, it's very pocket listings. That's why I look at it, my point of view.
Yes, but I learned throughout the years that with commercial, you have to know how to do the research, because you're not gonna necessarily find the properties in the MLS. So there's different systems you tap into. But in commercial, instead of a geographical area like residential, that you're gonna work Lakes of the Meadow, or you're going to 3 Lakes or something like that, in commercial, you're gonna decide, am I gonna do industrial commercial? Am I gonna do retail? Am I gonna do offices? Am I gonna sell land, businesses? And then you find out who are the players in the industry that are realtors that specialize in those given areas. And those are the people that will hook you up with the properties. Next question.
George, in your opinion, what's more important, branding or farming?
Okay, branding, I believe branding is more important for me.
Branding is making your name known. getting your name out there, your logo, your.
Branding is the most important. Go ahead.
Definitely. Right now, Realty World South Florida is gonna be opening the doors for you. But you wanna know something? At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with Realty World South Florida. I'm sorry I said that, but it's true. It has to do with what each of you are gonna bring to the table. Okay, so you're gonna tag along to our corporate image, but you're gonna set your own image. What is your specialty? Why are you different than all the other realtors out there? So people are gonna seek you no matter what you're doing or where you are. I have not done real active sales since 2008 because I went into administration, and I still get calls every single day from customers that knew me. Even if I don't have an actual website right now, that I'm not farming, that I'm not actively soliciting business. Why? Because I set a name for myself, and that's what's most important.
How long did it take you to close your first transaction, and where did the lead come from?
My first transaction, I don't recall, it being some time back,
That's easy.
but I got it from floor call or an open house, the lead.
So you don't remember, but it was from one of the two.
So one of the two, I'll be honest with you, a floor call or the open lead.
Wow, you know where I got my first lead from my father, rest in peace. He had a little landscaping business, and I gave him a bunch of business cards, and I said, Papi, please make sure you give this to each and all of your customers, telling them that your daughter's a realtor. So he distributed business cards to everything. To this date, the lady that I sold a little house to in Doral doesn't know she was my first customer, and it was my father who gave me the lead.
Nice.
I want Mike, if you don't mind, to share what was his first lead.
Okay, my first lead was, my first week in real estate, I started out with Marlene, the same company we were in. So I told Marlene, I wanna do an open house. I actually bothered her about it. She's like, I don't have any open houses, I have a rental in Doral. I go, I'll do it. She goes, it's a rental. I said, doesn't matter. I do the rental, I put up the open house signs. A lady comes in thinking it was a sale. I wanna buy this. I go, this isn't for sale, this is for rent, but I can find you another one. Well, we closed it like in 15 days later, I closed another one in the same Costa del Sol,
Right.
in the same neighborhood. I think it was a $185,000 cash deal in 15 days, which I got from a rental open house. So you never turn down anything. I mean, if you're doing, even from a rental, you could get leads that turn into a sale.
Yeah, but you didn't say the complete story. He
What?
calls me up Sunday. He says, I sold it. I said, what did you sell?
How did you sell it? What do you
I
mean
said,
you
it's a
sold it?
rental. You can't sell a rental. He says, no. I brought a list like you told me of all the other properties in the area that were on the market for sale. And the lady wanted to, so I took her after the open house to one of those properties, and we put a contract. And I'm sitting there, I said, I can't believe this.
So that's
when
how
I
I got
knew.
mine. I'll never forget mine. It's easy because
Yeah.
it's through Marlene's.
That's why I knew he was going to
open
be a
house.
great sales rep, because he turned a rental into a sale, and he was only with us for a week.
A week?
Yeah.
How many prospecting phone calls do you average per day, and what type of business do you target?
I target between 12, 20 calls a day.
12 to 20 calls.
I try to hit buyers and sellers and expire listing through the Matrix now. It's called Matrix, not MLX. Matrix.
George is a veteran, so he was still with
I should do the MLX.
the MLX, so now we're
Yeah.
switching over to the
And start making
Matrix.
phone calls. You can start making calls and try to get out there, make a point. That's what I'm saying. Try to make the calls in the morning. From the afternoon, you can go out there.
And you might get 100 no's until you get a yes, but you'll
Yeah.
get a yes.
You know, out of
Somebody that'll
out
tell
of
you
they told
yes.
me out of 50 calls or 100 calls you make a week, 1 or 2 will come back. So that's what it is. And send out business cards through mail, email, postcards, thank you cards, things like that.
I like 20-20-20. Have
Oh,
you heard of
20-20-20?
20-20-20? And I encourage this. Okay, let's say you're making phone calls and you're making cold calls. After the 5th or the 6th call, if people have hung up the phone on you, insulted you, they don't want to talk to you, you can't get anybody on the phone, you're going to become very discouraged. So 20-20-20 every single day is that you establish 20 new contacts, cold calls, okay? But you also do 20 follow-ups of people that you've met in open houses, at a party that you went to, at your kid's school that maybe you talked about real estate, and you contact 20 people in your sphere of influence. So the 20-20-20, you mix it up in your 2 hours of prospecting every morning. So let's say, okay, I'm gonna try calling these 5 cold calls. And after those 5, I'm gonna forget about that. I'm gonna call 20 of my friends or people in my sphere of influence just to say hello, what you doing, I'm doing real estate, remember, keep me in mind. Do you know anybody wanting to buy or sell right now? What happened to your cousin? She relocated, etc., etc. So it's refreshing. And then you could go back to calling 5 more people in your cold call list. And then maybe you end up doing another 5, 10 phone calls to follow up people. So at the end of your 2 hours of prospecting, hopefully you've contacted 20 cold calls, 20 people in your sphere of influence, and you've done 20 follow-ups. And when you mix and match it, it doesn't become so tedious, if I may say. Even if the cold calls, you got through to nobody. But you never know if you get a lead from any of the other ones.
Yeah. Well, my first one after yours was my cousin. He sold one in Snapper Creek and bought another one because I called him up. I'm doing real estate. I want to sell. I want to buy something bigger. So it's just to get out there and let everybody know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, did you ever what is your opinion about open houses and brokers opens?
Open houses, basically open house for my point of view is to get leads, the signs and get leads in the area. Doesn't particularly sell the house itself, but it helps us a lot. And you can add it for your sphere of influence. If you do an open house for someone else, you can add those clients of yours to your sphere of influence and do the follow-up like Marlene mentioned 2020.
Yeah, open houses work. I did an open house for sale by owner. I said, do you mind if she doesn't want to list. I'm not gonna list, I'm not gonna list. I go, do you mind if I do an open house? Unfortunately, it was raining that day, so nobody came in, this particular one. But if you have a list, you have a sign-up sheet, whoever comes into the open house, even if they don't want that house, you have their information, you can find them something in the area, price that they want, if they want it with a pool, not with a pool, etc. You have a list of people that you can contact. So the open houses, to get into a for sale by owner and do an open house is easy, because they'll let you do it. They'll let you come in and do it. They just don't want to sign that agreement so fast. But maybe they see how you do an open house, how you treat people, and maybe they end up signing. So, but your main objective to me is, like you say, to get a sphere of influence and get a list of names.
The for sale by owner sometimes is kind of difficult because they don't want to sign
They don't
an
want to
agreement
sign it right away.
if you bring a buyer. If the buyer comes into the house today, how comes if he comes tomorrow without you? What happens?
But what I find is, if you tell them, if I bring somebody, will you pay 3%? 90% of them will say, no problem.
Yeah, but that buyer, you feel comfortable with that buyer will come in the next day without you there.
Oh yeah, that would be.
Yeah, you gotta register everybody. Okay, this is my take on open houses. Number 1, you should start visiting open houses in the area. Whether it's an open house here from our office or a competitor. You wanna see how they organize their open house, okay, how they go about it. And when there's broker opens, that I think here in Kendall, they do that, on Wednesdays for the most part? You should visit a broker's open, which is only the invitation to realtors such as yourself.
Your colleagues.
Okay, this is the way I resolved the for sale by owner dilemma. Okay, when I first started, I used to take my aunt with me, and I would say that my aunt was a buyer, and that if we could show the house, and that I'm a realtor, but I wouldn't say that it was my aunt. So when I would go inside the house and they were showing me the house, I kind of took control. And I would say, so-and-so, I wouldn't say Tia, I would say, Nora, did you notice that this house has cathedral ceilings? Look at these beautiful floors, and they must have remodeled the kitchen. I was selling the house and I didn't have the listing. My first listing was a friend of mine, but my second listing was that. The lady was so impressed with me, she tried to sell for 3 more weeks on her own, and I guess nobody was coming in, so she called me and asked me if I would take the listing. And funny story, I did an open house on her property after I got the listing. And I was picking up, only 3 people came, and this gentleman came in through the door and he says, oh, you're leaving? I said, no, but I'll show you the house. Let me show you really quickly. And he looked around and he says, I like it. He says, can I place an offer on the home? And I'm still selling, and I said, excuse me? And he says, can I place an offer on the home? I said, sure. I went to the trunk of the car, I pulled up a contract. Back then we would write contracts by hand, and I sold the house in an open house. That doesn't happen, okay? But you've gotta give that exposure out there. And we have houses that are vacant, so you need to look at our inventory and start selecting which properties you'd like to open. And if you don't want to do it on your own, tag team, 2 of you get together and do an open house together, so you get the experience.
And D.R. Horton gives us open houses too, usually on Sundays.
Definitely.
Do
but an open house,
a new house.
Horton is a pre-construction company.
Right. An open house is not Friday, I'm going to do an open house on Sunday. No, you have to decide like a week or a week and a half before and start doing advertising so people get to the open house. Nice.
Okay, how many board classes do you recommend to be taken on a